r/AskReddit, nsfw, what is something that was acceptable 100 years ago which is unacceptable today? Remember, we're talking about 1922 here, not 1850. Putting lead in everything. Smoking and drinking while pregnant. Doing heroin to cure a cough or a cut. Slapping kids at school. Not graduating high school. Edit. Thanks for all the upvotes and the unexpected and wholesome comments about your grandparents and great-grandparents. I really enjoyed reading them after a long day at work. Smiley face. Putting belladonna in your eyes, to get a doe eye effect. Radioactive wallpaper. Thinking the Milky Way was the entirety of the universe. Hubble didn't verify the existence of other galaxies outside the Milky Way until 1924, Andromeda being the first. Beating your wife and kids. Asbestos. It was deemed a miracle fiber in its day. The stuff was used everywhere. Pushing small children up a chimney or down mines. Naming your kid Adolf. Taking your gun to school. That was actually 50 years ago. My father talks about taking his rifle to school, putting it in his locker, and taking it out after school for gun club where they shot targets out behind the football field with a teacher. Putting cocaine in soft drinks. Stopping by a friend/family member/neighbor's house unannounced without asking ahead of time if they feel like having company. Traveling by horse on the highway. Institutionalization of women, usually by her parents or husband, for pretty much any reason they thought up because she was difficult and labeling her hysterical. Racial segregation of 100 types, including property covenants that prohibited the sale of a home to a non-white family. Buying dynamite and ammonia nitrate at the local hardware store. I got to hear some interesting stories of how my great-uncles cleared tree stumps to make way for crop fields. Smoking literally everywhere. Motherfuckers probably tried smoking whilst swimming. Lynching. It was popular enough that you could get lynching postcards, complete with a graphic photo of the murder, going into the 1920s. This is despite the US Postal Service banning them in 1908. Sending 7-year kids to the store by themselves or let them roam freely after dark. Not that it's unacceptable now, but back in the 20s they would call alcoholic beverages, giggle water, which I think is super cute. Edit, I did not know alcohol was illegal back then in the US. Should have added that it's a us thing. BC I don't think the Dutch ever called alcohol Guyetchel water, thanks for the added history lesson LOL. Smoking in pubs. Licking radium to make wristwatches. Men marrying teenage girls. New movies without sound or color. Tying your giraffe to a lamppost or telephone pole, Atlanta. Edit, wore the wrong tie. An icebox in the kitchen, with ice regularly delivered to the house, instead of an electric refrigerator. https://en. Wikipedia. org/wiki/icebox #media/file iceboxes. JPG. Sending your wife to the doctor to let her be masturbated by the doctor to relieve her hysteria. Marry your daughter off to the highest bidder in certain cultures. Hitting/beating/raping your wife. Having sex with people born in the 1800s. Nowadays you'd get asked to leave the cemetery. Using radioactive elements to make bright green stuff. Asking for methamphetamine at the pharmacy. Opium. They gave that shit to you for everything. Have a headache, here's some opium. Just had a foot cut off, here's some opium. Just had a baby, here's some opium. Wanna get that prostitute feeling good before you take her upstairs, give her some opium. WTF. Segregation. Most teens did not attend school, instead they labored in factories or fields. Asking to speak to the man of the house. Openly displaying a swastika. Edit, because people keep commenting it, I know it was a harmless spiritual symbol until co-opted by the Nazis. It's almost like that's why I chose it as a perfect example of ops question. 15-year-old girl woman marrying a 30-plus-year-old man. Some parts of the world this still happens though. Spitting into those things, I forgot what they're called when you walk into a bar. TLDR of every response. Here is a thing that's widely unaccepted now. Nah, there are still some places where it happens. Eugenics. Dying in childbirth. Putting infant and toddler boys in dresses. If you have any older photos of your great-grandfathers, I can almost guarantee he was in dresses as a small growing boy. Buying baby and toddler pants when your boys were growing rapidly was wasteful, so you put them in a dress that you could let out as he got taller. Being a Soviet. Salmon and mayonnaise jello for dinner. Me, a black guy dating a white woman. A lot of the great cities of today had massive slums 100 years ago. In London it was common for poor families to rent a single room in a terrace house. In Hong Kong Kowloon was covered in shanties, and in New York there were shanties in Central Park. Marital rape. 100 years ago, schools taught to girls that if their husbands wanted to fuck, all they had the right to do is wait until he was done. No matter they wanted to or not. Horse shit. Everywhere. Abandoning your family and moving a town over to start a new family. Ordering a Thompson machine gun out of the Sears and Roebuck catalog for $200 unamused face #LandOffTefree. Swastikas. They went from being a religious icon in many Eurasian religions/cultures to being perhaps the most recognizable sign of hate. Women in certain professions were not allowed to marry unless they wanted to risk losing their jobs. Some teachers literally had conditions against marriage in their contracts. There's one from 1923 and I'm thinking of currently, and I'll attach the link if I find it. Link, https://vintagenewsdaily.com/an American female teacher's contract from 1923/. It's a mix of truth and myth, as cited here, http://Shugurinskyi. Faculty. ASU. edu/moments/1915 rules. HTML. It just blew my mind that 100 years ago was 1922. When I saw the post, my head immediately went to the 1800s. Village idiots. Putting Nina on your storefront window next to a help wanted sign. Forcibly removing native children from their homes and placing them in boarding schools where they weren't even allowed to speak their language or speak of their culture. Happened to my GMA who's 80 now. So not quite 100 years. Showering once a week. A family living off a one-person income. Now it takes income from 2 full-time parents, a grandparent providing free daycare, and government incentives, child bonuses. Getting married and having kids in your teens. Hardcore racism. I'm talking public executions, hangings, lynching, huge KKK rallies. Finding an abandoned kid in the streets and adopting him just because you could. My great-great-grandfather did that, quite a wild story. Frontal lobotomy. Invading Ukraine. Driving without a seat belt. Take into account that the world is not the US of A. There are dozens of different societies, idiosyncrasies, and worldviews alive in the world. Many of the examples given are still acceptable or encouraged in different parts of the world. This doesn't make them okay. I am not advocating for cultural relativism, but you must understand that there is a whole world that also frowns upon popular practices in the US of A. My mother-in-law once told me that she finds it abhorrent that parents in the US of A feed their toddlers soda and hamburgers. Normal to you, abhorrent to a Mexican lady who, quite frankly, is right. Beating you wife and children, thank God that illegal today. Porn that just showed ankles. Believing the moon was made of cheese / there were aliens on the moon. Smelling really bad, I would guess. Polka music. Why are most of these comments something that was banned only 20 years ago, or 150 years ago? 100 years ago, well 102, it was perfectly normal for people in the UK to have weapons, edit, as in firearms, without a license, and even carry them for self-defense like they currently do in the USA. These days in the UK, imagining you could go to a store and buy a gun to defend yourself is so unthinkable that most would think you were mad for suggesting the UK used to be like that. Hitting one's kids. Wearing a fedora every day. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and subscribe to never miss an upload.